The horror game Outlast has boomed in popularity in recent times, with the bravest and the most masochistic of YouTubers battling their way through some incredibly notorious achievements. Me and horror games have a love-hate relationship. Now, what I mean by this is that horror games love scaring me, and as a result I absolutely hate them. Oh, you fucking... I did one playthrough of Outlast all the way back in 2014, and according to Xbox, that took me a whopping 51 hours. Now, sadly, I do actually believe that, because I spent roughly 48 hours hiding in vents, terrified of the enemies. Red Barrels released the Outlast Trials this year, their first co-op game in the Outlast series. A friend of mine was planning to play it as he loves both Outlast and horror games. He quite clearly has some problems. I decided to join him because at the very least I could lure enemies to him before running away and hiding in a corner. The game begins with the Murkoff Corporation looking for volunteers for an experiment. Naturally, we don't realise until we're actually there that they abduct you instead. Our character proceeds to get abducted, get a pair of night vision goggles surgically attached to his face. I'm pretty sure that's not what they did when I played Call of Duty. And we're off. After matching our character's hairline to my own as closely as possible, the tutorial now begins. Pretty accurate. The tutorial teaches us the controls and helps us get to grips with the game itself. What the fucking hell has gone on here? We're tasked with destroying our own public and personal records during this level, whilst attempting to avoid the psychotic, failed test subjects. This tutorial does proceed to scare the life out of me, and I leave the trial wondering if I should just uninstall now whilst I still have some time.
Nope.
With the tutorial now finished, we join our friend in the sleep room. This area allows us to purchase upgrades at the shop, play chess and arm wrestle other players, and also, most importantly, check our badges. Each badge in the game is tied to an achievement, and this handy interface allows us to see exactly how much progress we've made thanks to the trackers. A lot of these badges will progress at the same time, with only a select few requiring us to go out of our way to fulfill specific requirements. To start with, we jump into the first few trials just to get to grips with the game itself. The first trial is Kill the Snitch. It's set in a prison, and we're first tasked with infiltrating the prison itself. This was as simple as climbing through a truck and then a window, but it took us an embarrassingly long time to figure this out. Not quite as bad as me trying to get out of the first room of the tutorial though. Once inside, we had to head to the security room. This once again resulted in us running in circles aimlessly for about 10 minutes, despite clearly running past the door about 10 times. Upon watching this back, there's even a marker showing me exactly where to go. Oops. After getting needlessly impaled by a door trap and running around in the dark in panic a bit more, we finally figure out where to go and enter the security room. We have our first encounter with Sergeant Leyland Coyle here. He's one of the prime assets for the Murkoff Corporation, and he's a murderous former policeman that causes us all sorts of problems during our time on the game. We meet the Snitch at this point and start pushing him along this track, although we're soon stopped and tasked with powering the generators before we can move him any further. What ensues is a further 15 minutes of us running around in darkness, having no idea quite where we're going. We slowly start to learn the mechanics of the game here, picking locks, looting items and attempting to stay alive. Don't leave them to me. God, I'm carrying something, mate. I can't climb over anything. With the generators finally turned on, we head back to the Snitch and proceed to keep moving him along the track. A big naked man appears here. Now, yes, you did hear that right. This is, of course, Outlast after all.
Yeah, this is like an entirely new area. Oh,
Oh, I've just electrocuted myself to death. He's another character we'll be seeing way too much of, or perhaps not enough, depending on what you're into, during our time on this game. We have to loot 3 keys from dead bodies around the area to unlock the 3 doors blocking our way, which isn't very easy to do when you have an 8-foot streaker chasing you around. This whole area descends into absolute anarchy, but we eventually get the doors open, push the Snitch to the end of the track, and we now have to electrocute him. This noise once again triggers the cop to make another appearance, but as we just about used up every resource on the map at this point, we were taking an absolute beating here. We managed to get the Snitch down, and at this point in time all we had left to do was escape. Sadly, that was easier said than done. My friend gets down to right by the exit, and after kiting the cop away and running back to revive him, I get knocked down myself just as he gets revived. Unfortunately, he glitches out at this point and he gets frozen still, meaning I have to lie there helpless as I watch our first run end in failure after an hour of suffering. You get a grade at the end of each trial which assesses your performance and grants you XP based on this. Unsurprisingly, with 54 minutes taken, 5 deaths, 8 in-caps, mishaps, and failure of the trial itself, we get an F grade. Wallowing in our own self-pity at this point, we check out our badge progress. As I mentioned earlier, badges are each tied to an achievement. There are badges such as running, sliding or crouching certain distances that will unlock naturally over time, alongside achievements for distracting enemies or using medicine, which will require us to play in a certain way to unlock them. We jump back into the first trial, and whilst it was far from perfect, we do manage to get out alive this time with no incaps or deaths and a slightly more respectable 37 minutes, earning a rather passable grade of a C-. With some XP now gained, we earned our first ticket, a currency which is usable in the shop earned through leveling up. I buy the slide ability here as it's tied to an achievement, and we also unlock the rig at this point. These rigs give you extra abilities, but I settled on the healing rig as I spend most of my time on this game getting slapped around like a ragdoll. There are achievements tied to the rig use itself, so it's good to get it as early as possible. We then call it a day on our first session of the game. A new day, and with it a new trial. This one was cancelled, the autopsy, and we'll be seeing a lot of this one going forward. This is a much shorter trial, simply requiring you to collect a key from a body in each of the 3 sections of the map before using these keys to activate switches which grind up the agents. I do say this so nonchalantly, but Outlast really desensitizes you to these things. Our first run of this trial takes us 23 minutes, and Scrubbits actually smashed out an A rank, while I sadly get a C once again. Like I said, I do seem to get targeted by everything on the map. Now, some people may say that's a skill issue, and I'd be inclined to agree. The final new trial we'll be trying out for a while before settling into the grind is Sabotage the Lockdown. All you need to do in this trial is grab some gasoline, restart a generator, and exit. Despite the very simple task at hand and our masterful sneaking around the map, we managed to die and fail in just over 14 minutes, which may actually be more impressive than managing to complete the level itself. Our second run is more successful, but after this we decide to go back to cancel the autopsy and grind out the achievements on this trial for as long as we can. With this now being the core part of the game for us, I best go into some detail on the plan of action. There are a number of cumulative achievements as I previously mentioned. Things like medicine, adrenaline and antidotes all have to be used an insane amount of times. Whilst adrenaline can be used at any time, antidotes can only be used when you start entering psychosis, a state in which you begin going crazy. Likewise, medicine can only be used when you take damage. This essentially means I need to purposely play badly to be able to progress. Fortunately, playing badly is exactly what I do best. We also need to do things like perform 50 co-op actions. There are 2 co-op doors you can bash open in this trial, so 25 runs will tick that off for us. We also need to do things such as completing 10 trials without taking damage and 25 trials in total. For now we'll play badly to progress other achievements, but down the line we'll start trying our flawless attempts. I will also highlight other achievements as we get to them. The first achievement we popped was for sliding for 120 seconds. Now I just sat in the starting room doing this, and I was clearly having an absolute blast doing so. Shortly afterwards I followed this up with the bullseye achievement, which is for headshotting 50 enemies. Bricks and bottles can be picked up and thrown, either as a distraction or to temporarily stun enemies in the game. The next 2 sessions were much of the same thing, popping achievements for using hiding spots, batteries, collecting hidden documents and spending 3600 seconds both running and crouching. We also got achievements for using 50 adrenaline syringes and spending 6 minutes in full psychosis. Psychosis is essentially our insanity meter, and it can be increased by running over floor mines or getting caught by this gas man. I have no idea what to actually call him. This is Alex from the future, realising during editing that I also got an achievement for hitting 100 enemies with throwables, and I completely missed out of the video. Oops. I actually managed to do my first no damage run around here too. As we completed about 10 to 15 runs of this trial by this point, we got into a routine of knowing how to approach the level. There's a pathway which wraps around the outside of the level, allowing you to access the 3 sections relatively safely. Now you still have the usual enemies patrolling each section, which we codenamed the COD World War II zombie for this gentleman in the left section, Cock Guy for this Natros in the middle section, and Wolverine for this angry lady with a blade on her arm in the right section. World War II guy is relatively easy to avoid. He's blind and he responds to sound, so if you just sneak around him and avoid the sound traps, you're fine. You can also use throwables to distract him. Cock Guy is a nightmare. He's quick and chases you very hard around the map. I probably shouldn't say very hard either. If you dive out into the outer corridor I previously mentioned, there are rooms that you can't access, but he is still rather scary. Wolverine lady isn't too big of an issue either. She can swing her arm at you quite quickly, but she moves a bit slower and doesn't chase you quite as aggressively. Upon finding the 3 keys we needed, I proceed to hide in a locker to avoid damage in the final portion of this level until we were ready to exit. Now our original plan was to have one person play the trial whilst the other hid in a locker. We would rotate this process until both of us did 10 no damage runs. We did try this once with my friend hiding, but it took me 14 minutes as I just couldn't find one of the keys for the objective. We then agreed to just play properly and do the achievement legit. I previously managed the no damage run as I showed, so it was definitely doable, and if we were both actively playing, we'd continue making progress towards the other achievements we needed. We got all of our no damage runs done in one go, and it proved to be rather stressful at times. Oh, she's seen me. Oh, I've just ran to the dead end. Oh.
No. Do you have a bottle? Tell me that.
Entering full psychosis spawns a Skinner Man, a being that actively damages you for about 20 seconds until your psychosis subsides. This means if you're ever caught by this gas man, you are in quite a lot of trouble. I had a few times where I'd enter full psychosis and use an antidote to cure myself mere seconds before taking damage. Scrubbits also didn't have much fun here, with multiple reports coming through over the mic where he accidentally took damage.
I took damage. You game. Like,
You game! Along with this one incident where he was running away from an enemy, and as soon as he got into safety, he walked straight on an electric trap. Walk for a door, and I was like, oh look, there's your clone, and then big guy straight behind.
Oh no, I took damage!
It wasn't all bad though. We got multiple runs done in around 4 to 5 minutes, and by the end of it we felt like a well-oiled machine. I also popped a bunch more achievements during these runs for using my rig 100 times, breaking down 50 locked doors, distracting 50 enemies, completing 25 trials, looting 1000 items, and disarming 50 door traps. All that was left now was some of the grindier achievements. There were achievements for losing 10,000 points of health, reviving 50 times, and getting knocked down 50 times, and these were all best done on a trial we hadn't yet unlocked, so we decided to play through a bit more of the game and freshen things up a bit before the final section. Our next trial was set in an orphanage, and I have to say that Red Barrels really did a great job of making some fantastic levels to play through. This trial was super long with a lot of objectives to do, and after playing the game for as long as we had, it felt weird to once again be unfamiliar with what we were doing or where we were going. Upon entering the orphanage, we had to tune radio receivers in the dorms, swap film reels in the classrooms, find keys and corpses to power up a generator, and then regroup in a chapel before escaping. This level took us nearly 36 minutes as, like I said, it was rather long and we got lost a bunch of times, but it was quite fun playing through something new, and it actually might have been my favourite setting for a level in the game. As you can see, I used a ton of medicine on this run and I picked a total of 8 locks, so we did make some great progress towards the miscellaneous achievements we didn't yet unlock. We also got our last co-op action done during this level. The next trial was Grind the Bad Apples, which is actually the trial we wanted to use to grind our revives down some blood loss. This was done right at the end of the level, so we had to play through like normal until then. This trial is set in an amusement park and was also pretty fun when we weren't running around completely lost. Right away I got an achievement for using 100 antidotes before proceeding to play some fair games to win prizes. Yes, that is me throwing hearts at targets. Just don't ask. With the tickets obtained, we regroup at the root canal ride and listen to Mother Gooseberry's speech. We now have to push the boat along the track to the end of the level. This once again descends into chaos as always.
Arm down. Don't die, don't die, don't die.
I just saw you like collapse. But we get plenty of time to use medicine as we take a beating. I unlocked the Toastmaster badge here for using 50 rig recharges, and shortly afterwards we reach our grinding point at the end of the level. We proceed to throw ourselves into these saw blades for about the next 20 minutes, unlocking our achievements for 50 downs, 50 revives and 10,000 points of blood loss. I also finally get my achievement for using night vision for 10 hours here too. Yes, you heard that correctly, 10 hours. With all of that done, we just had 3 achievements left to finish off the following day. The first achievement was for helping teammates by kicking 50 enemies. There is a chance when encountering an enemy that they'll jump on top of you. When this happens, your teammate has a short window of opportunity to run over to you and kick the enemy off. Now, unfortunately, during the trials, we'd play in separate areas of the map to finish as quick as possible and collect our own supplies to use. There was, however, a good method to get this achievement done relatively quickly. Back on Cancelled the Autopsy, our favourite level, we head to the middle area of the map where our favourite unclothed friend resides. Sadly, he decided to wear some trousers during this run, which was a bit disappointing, but we have to work with the hand we're dealt. We lured the guy to these lockers and took turns getting his attention. With the big guy chasing us, we jump into a locker to hide and he proceeds to pull us out of the locker and grab hold of us. Our partner would then use this time to free us, take the guy's attention and then swap roles. This took us about 15 minutes, but it wasn't too painful overall. It just looks a bit ridiculous to watch from a distance. Fortunately, during this time we both had an ability which heals you when you enter a hiding space, which means that every time we jumped in we'd replenish our health and not be at risk of dying, which ended up working quite well. I still had 2 final achievements to pop now. One was for consuming 200 medicine, which I unlocked literally 1 minute after the crowd control achievement, and the second one was for unlocking 100 containers, which popped just 4 minutes later. And with that, both of us had completed the Outlast Trials. My friend could now proudly boast a full series completion again, whilst I could proudly boast that I'd been brave enough to complete an Outlast game, albeit not the one I initially planned to do. That may be on the way soon though, so you'll definitely have to like this video and subscribe to see that one. Thank you all very much for watching, I do hope you enjoyed and I'll catch you in the next one.